Hey, I wanted to do a quick overview or a couple videos on this DuckDB database. I'm pretty excited about it, and I've been trying a lot of different things, so also helps me to kind of articulate it, just to kind of put it down in a video and make some of my example scripts. So I'm going to be making a couple of them, posting them on probably LinkedIn and YouTube and things like that. So it's going to be pretty rough. I'm just throwing it together fast. Not a lot of effort to do it. So what is DuckDB? I'll probably do a separate video just on this, but it's an in-process OLAP database. So there's no like major installation associated to it. It's not sitting there running on its own waiting for stuff. It's actually when you start it, that's when it runs. It's in process in that way. And so it's like, it has a WebAssembly install for JavaScript, on a browser, so it can actually run on your browser. It can run more commonly with a pip command with Python. You can also has JDBC and ODBC. It's also in process for the way it runs on those, which is kind of interesting. It's column store kind of based. If anybody's worked with SQL Server and column store indexes, you kind of know it's pretty cool. Very fast for analytics and summary type queries, and so this is how this is structured and run. So it's more geared to analytics. It can read natively Parquet files, CSV files, JSON files, and it can also write those. And you can actually make kind of if you have some, you can make make them persistent. Like you can make kind of like views where it persists, pointing to different ones. So you can have like a SQL Server database, an Oracle database, Parquet file, text file, JSON file, plus local, its own database, which is, I'm not going to cover that for this one, but you can also have its own database where you load that, and it stores in a file, kind of like SQLite. And, like I said before, runs, I covered this. You can link it to Postgres, SQL Server, Oracle, other things, of course. Yeah, so without much ado, let's look at the script. What I'm going to do here, this one, obviously, because it's got the little icons, you're like, oh, you probably used AI to help make this. That's correct. But I tweaked it a little bit after the fact. But the net of what it's doing is, here's my directory, here's my database that I'm calling, and it's going to select from two tables that I made on my database server, the user activity, test data, and just reads those and kind of loads them into a data frame in Python in Pandas, and then once that's done, it kind of creates the DuckDB and registers the two data frames within DuckDB. So now DuckDB can do its magic, right? You could actually persist those tables, the data frames to DuckDB there. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually just going to write it and copy it to a actual Parquet file. And you can actually open the Parquet file later, which I'll show how to do. So the two things I'm doing today is writing to a Parquet file from a SQL Server database. Then I'm going to show you in a separate script how to read from that same two Parquet files. So, and you can create any of this in any LLM pretty quickly. Plus you can see it here on my screen. I'm using snappy compression, Parquet format, and then this little thing just kind of says, hey, does this file exist after the fact? And that's it. So if you go here, so this is the directory it's going to be running in, and see, as you can see here, there's nothing there. There's this Kenobi duck doesn't exist. Actually, it's not DuckDB. I just have it without the DuckDB extension. But anyway, you'll see that. So anyway, let's run it. And there it all ran. So it inserted 5,000 rows into one, 50,000 into another. It created the Parquet files. So here's the new Kenobi duck that was created. It didn't have any of the actual stuff persisted, like I said, but it's so you could delete that if you wanted to, or not even have it created in the first place. And then here's the two Parquet files that I created. So that's that. So now, what do I want to read those Parquet files? So separate one, here's a path I build out to that output file. Here's the two Parquet files we created. Very simply, I'm going to do this in memory. And so I have a little loop here that just goes through these two, and it reads the top. It reads the count from each, which I don't even think it has to process. I think it's actually stored as metadata in there. So that's really fast. And then the just a limit 5, so it's like a top 5 select from each one of them, writes it to the console output. So let's look what that looks like. Parquet read was the file, so Python parquet read.py. That's right. And poof, there you go. So it read the test data, so which it has a bunch of test data, and it spits it out here. And also you see it's like 50,000 rows. And then my user activity test data again, it's got 5,000 rows, and I listed the top 5. So anyway, I'll be making some more of these videos. I've done a lot of stuff already with the browser integration, which is really cool. I'm excited about that piece because in tying that in with local storage of like Chromium or Chrome browsers, which has several gigabytes of data. Think about that. You can have a user upload their own text file or CSV or Excel file, load it into there. You could pull data down from your web service, load it into their local browser. So they can actually do queries against a major, pretty decent sized database on the browser that's stored locally. So there's a lot of things you can do with that type of construct. So I'll get into that in some other videos. And if you have anything specific, let me know. I hope that helps somebody. Bye.